That's something we just started. We're trying to put it on our YouTube channel too. So
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, everybody, Talk About It Outdoors live in the Wilson studio. I am your host, Alex DeBoard. As always, Nick Wilson joining me here, and we've got a fun one for you tonight. This has been a long-awaited arrival of a man we cannot wait for you to hear all about, where he came from and where he's headed next. Y'all kick it up with us, pull up a chair, and sit a while. Might have had that mic gain up a little bit higher than I usually do, Nick.
Oh, we got a rock star.
Oh, it is a rock star night for us, and I'm not going to waste any time getting right into this because, Nicholas, tonight we are joined by someone you and I grew up knowing as an icon in the hunting industry. And, you know, from simple beginnings right here in our home state of Georgia, growing up just over the hill in Douglasville, he paved a way for himself by never changing his positive, charismatic, and humble approach on life. His warming and affectionate nature, paired with an amazing God-given talent in archery, surely would warm the spirits of any outdoorsman. He was on the Archery Pro circuit, winning the 1991 ASA World Championship, winning multiple state titles as well along the way. His first appearance with Realtree on camera came in Monster Bucks 10, and alongside Jeff Foxworthy, his alternate persona was born. Countless times he has given us good old boys in Georgia the comfort knowing if you believe in yourself and the good Lord, anything is possible. It goes without saying how thankful we are to be able to welcome tonight to Talk About It Outdoors, Travis T-Bone Turner.
Oh man, dude, that's like an inaugural speech, man. I don't know.
I'm sure you can live up to it.
Yeah, I should have cleaned my glasses before I did that one, man. That's awesome.
Well, Travis, you know, we began a conversation on this podcast back in November when we started of a list of names of who the people we would hope to get on the show one day. And, you know, your name was right at the top of the list as being a Georgia guy and what you've been able to do in the hunting industry and throughout your career. It's been amazing to us to see how you can walk up to you at any point after all these years of being on camera, TV, and everything you've done. You're still that guy that you walk right up to and you'll always take time to speak to people, take a picture with them or whatever. And that to me has been the one thing we agreed on that we wanted to have you on for more than anything. So,
well, I appreciate that, guys. And yeah, I mean, me, Michael, and Nick, we all feel the same way. I mean, we're no different than any other redneck out there that's hunting and fishing. We just love it. And the only difference is, you know, for the last 20 plus years, we've just had a camera in our face. We don't like the title of, you know, everybody says pro hunter. We don't like that at all. I guess if you have to have a title, maybe an outdoor entertainer. Half the folks that are watching the show are probably way better hunters than we are. But you know, we get a camera in our face and we hope that folks would, at the end of the show would like to share camp with us. So I appreciate you saying those kind words, but yeah, I try to make my mom and grandma proud and everything. Yes, you just no different. You just put pants on just like everybody else. Mine are a little bigger than most, but you put your pants on the same way.
Well, and you know, going back to when you first got into archery, and we always try to take it back to the beginning of things, and you know, when you first got into hunting, and who was that one person that really got you started as a kid into hunting?
Well, as a kid, it naturally would be my dad, and you know, like so many people, and my uncle, and then of course, I grew up in Villarica actually. And it was kind of the perfect way to grow up. Actually, I'm from Ohio. We moved down here when I was 5. Okay. But when we got down here, we lived in a neighborhood, but it was there was 13 houses on a cul-de-sac, but yet it was in the middle of nowhere. So, you know, we had motorcycles, and back then, you know, you didn't really have to worry about property lines and stuff. You just kind of hit the woods and went after it. And it was absolutely the great place to grow up. So between you know, the other kids in the neighborhood, we kind of grew up together, and all of our dads hunted, and my uncle hunted. So that's how I got my love for hunting and fishing, of course.
Yeah. Now, and I heard you say before that squirrel hunting's really where you got you started.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. Well, of course, way back then, I'm telling on my age, but there wasn't a whole lot of deer, you know, way back then. And my dad, you know, I mean, like if anybody on the neighborhood got a deer, it was like, oh man, we're gonna have a parade next week because somebody killed a deer. But it was kind of tough. So squirrel hunting was something that we could do after school. And man, just I mean, it takes me back this time of year, like where we were at, there was a huge substation, so you could just hear it. It's probably about a quarter to half mile away, but you can hear it buzzing the whole time, just how a substation does. But whenever I hear that, and a pocket full of Halloween candy, you go by and mom would have Halloween candy out, a couple weeks before Halloween comes by, and my dad would pick me up at school. We'd go to the woods and sit on a log and still hunt a little bit for some squirrels. And man, I couldn't get enough of it. And then of course that bled over into deer hunting as I got into my teenage years.
And it really didn't start bow hunting for you till you got a little bit older, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't. I mean, I had a bow. My dad had bought me a bow for good grades when I was 10 or 11 years old, and probably that's the last time I made good grades, I'd say. But but
remember your first bow?
Yeah, I do. I still got it. It's downstairs. It's it's an old Indian bow. It's a solid fiberglass from one end to the other. And I've actually turned it into a bow fishing bow years ago, but I've still got it. It was a 45-pound recurve, and that's just too much for a 10 or 11-year-old. And my dad didn't know no better. He just got me a bow, and I mean, I'd bend the string a little bit and watch an arrow fly, but after I hit my arm a couple of times, I put it down, and it kind of had a bad experience in it. So I never even considered bow hunting again until I got out of high school. And me and some buddies of mine, they talked me into doing it. Well, I was more into fishing. Squirrel hunting and fishing is really all I did through school. And then when I was 19, I got in a hunting club with them, and I was waiting for gun season to come in. And they said, well, look, we're going to be shooting our bows all summer. We're not going to be fishing anymore. You go ahead and get you a bow. And I was like, you go through a lot of changes. I was like, man, I can't even pull a 45-pound recurve. Now, there's a lot of difference between an 11-year-old and a 19-year-old.
Right.
I mean, I played football in high school, and I was benching in the high 200s, and but still, my head was like, ain't no way I can pull a 45-pound recurve. Didn't even want to try it. Just it was a bad experience. So they talked me into buying a bow. I was buying a $300 or $400. It was a PSE Thunderflight. It was at Gable Sporting Goods in Douglasville. And we was up there, and while we were up there, my buddies was talking to a guy that owned the local archery range in town, and they were having a tournament that weekend. Well, I was more focused on buying this bow, and I was worried, had anxiety about I was going to have to pull this bow back in front of people, and they were going to laugh at me. It was an 80-pound bow, and the guy backed it off, way off to 64 pounds. And he said, that's as low as I can take it. And I'm like, all right, well, we'll just leave it right there. And he says, well, I need you to pull it back so that you can check your peep sight. And I said, just tie it in where you think it needs to be. I would not pull the bow back. I wouldn't even try to pull the bow back in the store. So then we left. It was Wednesday night, and that tournament was going to be Sunday. I wasn't going to go. I had no plans because I was just buying this bow. Mm-hmm. So I get home, and I had put off trying bow hunting for so long because I didn't think I could pull the bow, or, just I was anti-bow. I was all for deer hunting, but I was like, I'm anti-bow. So I'm still living at home, 19 years old. I go up in my room, and I'm like, all right, here we go. I got to try to pull this thing. I done spent $300 something. If I can't pull a bow back, I mean, what a waste. So I said, here we go. 1, 2, 3, whoom, and I about ripped the wheels off that thing. And it was just like a wave that went over me. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, that was so easy. So, needless to say, the next day we shot. I got my bow sighted in. We shot all day Thursday afternoon after work, Friday, Saturday, and then Saturday night it got dark on us. And they said, you gonna go over to that tournament with us tomorrow? And I said, heck no, man, I ain't on the bow 5 days. I ain't going to no tournament. And they said, oh, come on, we ain't never shot no tournament either. So we went. And back then, when I was thinking of an archery tournament, a 3D tournament, I always thought, you guys too, if anybody's listening, is never, you think of 100 guys on the line wearing white clothes, like what you'd see in an encyclopedia. I didn't realize what an archery tournament was. But then when we get there, you got 5 or 6 people, and you go out through the woods, and you're shooting at, back then, we didn't even have 3D targets. We were shooting at paper targets on Excelsior bells. So we're going through the woods shooting all these Excelsior bells and the paper targets. And I'm beating the guys that I'm with. I'm like, man, I'm doing pretty good. And we get done, and there were 6 of us that started and got done. And I beat all my buddies. I was like, man, that was awesome. I still had arrows left, and I beat all my buddies. And you turn your scorecards in, and there was 30 something people in the class, and it was the novice beginner class, nothing probably over 30-yard shot, but I won the whole thing. Owned a bow 5 days, and I won the whole thing for the novice division, the beginning division. So needless to say, that kind of created a monster there. I could not get enough of tournament archery, and I couldn't get enough of bow hunting. And shortly, a few months later, that was in the summertime, I killed my first deer ever with a bow. It was a big old doe out there in Social Circle, was with the club we was in. So yeah, that's how I got my teeth. And ever since then, every tournament that come up, I just couldn't get enough of it. And that was in 1988. And I won my first state championship in 90, and then actually won the world championship in 91. So yeah, I couldn't get enough of it. The bow and arrow has been so good to me. And even to this day, I still shoot a lot, and I got a shop in my basement and still work on 40 or 50 bows a year. So yeah, archery has been very, very good to me.
Casa de Bone. I know you call it the down in the basement. You do all your videos there. And I'll tell you something you started doing as of late that's been so cool to see is the little pro tips.
Yep.
Yeah.
And watching, the one that struck me more than anything was that arrow squeak. And
that was mine too. I sat there and I was like, I've had it.
When you talked about that file, I was like, oh my God, my bow's doing that exact same thing right now. And I'm out there in the garage at 10 o'clock at night trying to find a chainsaw.
People don't realize when you get out there in the woods, you're sitting up there in that stand and one comes up, you pull back.
Yep.
You think Charlie Daniels showed up.
Yeah, you don't even think nothing about it when you're shooting with your buddies. Where everybody's talking and making noise, and you don't really even hear it. But you get out there when it's deer 30, like 15 minutes before dark, man, and there ain't nothing but a cricket chirping and maybe a cardinal, and it gets noisy. So now I've been through that. I'm like, that felt on there is in good shape. There's something's got to give. So clean your air and then take a little rat tail file and get them fuzzies back up, and you're good to go.
That's awesome.
And I said that one. I'm sorry, guys. I said that one time, like, I just assumed, like, I've done tips kind of off and on between Realtree, Hoyt, Bone Collector, all through these years, but I keep forgetting that, man, that's been 20 something years, and some of that stuff gets lost in the shuffle. And through social media, a lot of new people come on and they never, find that stuff. So, and I just assume that, I guess, I don't know, maybe a little being humble or whatever. I just assume that a lot of guys already know those kind of things. And I'm like, nah, I ain't doing that. That's stupid. But then I get so much feedback. I'm like, well, if you know it, you know it. If you don't know it, then it may help. So I enjoy doing them. And I've been trying to do a lot more of them lately. I think a lot of people like them. So
yeah, they do. I've thoroughly enjoyed what you had to say.
Well, I appreciate that. I do.
Hey, I want to spin back real quick. We'll get back on archery in a second, but you said something about hunting in Social Circle.
Yeah.
And we've had several guests on here. Do you think you guys probably camped back then and probably hung out around camp, around a fire,
yeah.
come back to camp and talk? And we were talking about how much that is lost nowadays because people are, I don't know, just times have changed and people don't get out of school early and go camping. I mean, there's a select few, but not like it was when we were growing up or for you back in those days. Do you think that's lost? And do you miss that kind of hunting?
I do miss I wouldn't change anything about how I grew up, because a lot of times, I mean, I hunted a lot of WMAs. I mean, we lived in Villa Rica and I went to Douglas County school systems, but we hunted at Paulden Forest. We hunted at Sheffield. I mean, I hunted at Paulden Forest before there was a Sheffield. So I got to see Sheffield come into play and hunted up there, killed a few turkeys up there before, killed, a couple of does. And Cedar Creek, we used to go to Cedar Creek, Piedmont Wildlife Management, the National Refuge. Then we hunted at West Point Management Area. We used to come down and hunt the core property. I mean, for $15, we used to get a permit and we'd hunt all the way around the lake and we'd camp out. And, I had a camper on the back of my truck. So I used to sleep in the back of my truck, a little Ford Ranger with no air conditioning. I'd sleep in the back of that thing. And yeah, I mean,
the camping was the plus side of it when I was a young kid.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially if it was rifle season and people were shooting, you were excited to get back to see what was down. But
yeah, back then, honestly, that's what would get me down, is because we didn't have phones to text each other and see what's going on. I'd be like, man, it's 9:30. I'm like, man, I bet they're already back. I bet somebody's done killed something. I better slide on back there and see then you don't never want to be the first one back, because then everybody gives you fits, man. You got out of the woods too early. But yeah, all that camaraderie and fellowship and playing pranks and sitting around, listening to the Georgia Bulldogs play on Saturday on the radio, and then plus the playoffs, the Major League Baseball playoffs and the World Series. I can remember listening to them every night. Couldn't wait back. We'd cook out and have a big pot of chili and sit around listening to the baseball game around a fire at Cedar Creek. Man, it was awesome.
That's crazy to hear him talk about Cedar Creek like that, because we've hunted there before ourselves.
Did you have one of those? Did you guys ever have one of those one person that come to camp just for the alcohol?
Oh Lord, yeah.
He wouldn't even go sit in the woods, would he?
No. He basically we'd make him cook. I'm like,
yeah, that's right.
And I'm glad to have that guy.
That's right.
I'm glad that guy's there, because I'm gonna go sit in a tree.
That's the guy.
So, yeah.
He was the best one to sit around in the afternoons with and just chit chat with.
Oh yeah,
never know what she's gonna learn.
Yeah, we was in a club down in Stewart County. Actually, Todd Mobley. We was talking about Todd Mobley and Lonnie Fields. We all hunted together down there in Stewart County, and there was 2 old fellers in there, and we'd go down there bow hunting. And it's a huge club, and most all the other people that was hunting in the club were just rifle hunters, and they'd come down and work during bow season to get things ready. But we were bow hunting, and he told me, I was down there by myself that weekend and had a little shack that we had built for and I was proud of that, because I still living at home. That little 14 by 14 shack was my house. I mean, I was like, yeah, hey man, I got me a hot plate for this weekend, and cooking up soup and stuff on there. And the guys in camp, the older guys, they said, man, he says, listen, there's a lot of armadillos down there. And that was about as far north as they was, as in Stewart County. And he said, listen, don't be shooting them armadillos with that bow. Your bow ain't gonna go through that shell on that armadillo. And that was my first, time at hunting or seeing an armadillo. And this, I'm telling you, this is way back in the early 90s. I mean, a long time ago. And I'm like, no, it ain't stopping they made me think that it was that my arrow would not go through that armadillo. So I had to prove them wrong. I walked back, my chest was all puffed out, had that armadillo on a skewer. I just couldn't wait to show them old guys that my bow will go through the armadillo.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was talking to Glenn earlier, and he told me to ask you if you remember the time that y'all swam across a lake and he was on your back. He said, you look like a bobber straight up and down going across that lake.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And coon hunting, man, we had some escapades coon hunting, and it was like, we'd got stuck on the other side of the swamp, and you kind of get turned around if you've ever coon hunted in the dark, because you're just following the dogs, and then you kind of like, all right, it's over. Like, well, where's the truck? And then we figured out where the truck was, but we was going to have to go all the way around the swamp, or we was going to go through the swamp. And I said, boys, my big butt ain't walking that far. I'm going through the swamp. So, man, I parted the water like Moses. I was going through the swamp. I think they were right behind me. So, if there was any water moccasins or anything, man, I bet they got the heck out of Dodge.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, we had some good times.
Well, and I think that's the one thing with Bone Collector, what you, Nick, and Michael have been able to do is show those camp atmospheres. And the cast of characters around you have surely changed. You've got a lot of, other hunters that are in the public eye around you now, but you go out to the West with Nick and hunt with I'm not sure what Indian tribe that is. The Navajo Nation.
Yeah.
You guys go out there, and what y'all do with those kids out there, and we brought this up with Nick, that's the one thing that just brings it all back home for everybody that watches the show, and how you guys are able to do that. And I think that you keep your roots very grounded, and I think that's what makes that show work so well.
Well, we appreciate when we come up with it and we started the show, that's what we wanted, because me, Michael, and Nick, we all come from humble beginnings, and we all, cut our teeth the same way. We all didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, our whole life. So, we appreciate the simple things in the country living, and we wanted to make sure that, it's sad to say, but a lot of times in the outdoor entertainment, hunting can be, if some, it can be, unfortunately, a macho sport. You got that guy that pounds his chest, and I do this, and you should hunt like this, and look at the deer I kill. And unfortunately, sometimes it's that way, and sometimes the guys that have the TV shows or people that have the TV shows, they let that bleed through, almost. I see it in seminars a lot, they'll talk down to the audience, or, I don't want that. I want just like we talked about a campfire situation. I want it to be, I even hate standing on a stage, to be honest with you. I'd rather sit down on the edge of that stage or a chair and basically form if it's 200 or 300, 400 people, let's just form us a little campfire right here. And at the end of it, you'll share a story, we'll share a story, we'll laugh about some stuff, but it's just like we shared camp together, and we want our show to feel that way. And hopefully, like what you're saying, people get that. I mean, it's a given. We all want to kill a big deer. You don't have to say that you want to kill a big deer, but at the end of the day, we've made a pretty good living out of killing some mediocre deer, and
the old Gorder buck. That wasn't a giant, but boy, he was a hammer. I remember watching that one.
Old Goity, man, we had to put him down. That's right. First come, first serve.
Oh, that was one of those hunts that you're like, look, Bone ain't scared to go out there and shoot a mediocre deer and put him down. I'm gonna go shoot a mediocre deer too.
That's exactly right. And let's not forget about the ladies, the slick heads and the freezer queens.
I've seen you up there on them. I don't remember which show it was. You was up there in Pennsylvania in those people's backyards. I guess they were wanting some of them does. Dude, you were taking them out.
That's one of our most popular shows. People, because everybody can relate to that.
That's right.
Everybody can.
That's right.
Don't get me wrong. I like to see, I guess I'm calling out Lee Lakowski. I like to see him shoot some big deer, but man, that'd be career suicide if he went to New Jersey and shot a bunch of does, wouldn't it?
It would. It would. But the thing about it is, and that's what we keep going back to, is how you keep the camaraderie together and you keep it very basic so people can enjoy it. But at the end of the day, just like you said, Nick and I, Cody, if he's here with us, any of our buddies, we want to kill the biggest deer out there.
Yeah.
But if a good 8-pointer walks out up here in North Georgia, don't think, Alex ain't flinging one at it.
Oh, I know it. And think about it. I mean, I put myself, we get to hunt more than most folks because that's what we're doing for a living. But, the guy, Billy Joe Lunch Bucket, that's working 40 to 50 hours a week, every week, and he's only getting maybe a Friday afternoon and a Saturday. Mama wants him home by lunch on Sunday because they got to do some things. Who am I on TV or on social media to tell him, you need to let that deer walk, son? He needs to be 8 years old. And I'm like, dude, you've done spent a third of your paycheck hiding it from your wife, not even took her out to catfish dinner on Friday night, just so you can go into the woods for a day and a half. Man, you let it rip on that freezer queen. Let her have it.
That's
absolutely
right.
And then ride it around till the wheels fall off too. That's what we need. We need that to come back, guys.
Yep, and that's the thing that we've talked about a lot with social media. When we started this podcast, we made it clear that we're not going to engage any negativity. We're going to blow that stuff out of the water. You put a negative comment on something we do, sorry, it's getting deleted. We're not arguing it. We're not engaging it. And if you put somebody down on here, you're just not going to be a part of what we're doing, because you can ruin someone's entire hunting career if their first deer is a small buck and somebody pops off one bad comment about that. It ruins it could take them where they don't even want to ever hunt again. And who is anyone to judge on that?
Exactly. If it tripped your trigger and made you happy, you should shoot it as long as it's legal.
That's right.
If you've done it by legal manners, by all means, man, absolutely. Be proud of it. And each neighbor down the street or everybody at social media or whatever should raise him up. Absolutely. I can't stand when someone shoots a deer, they thought enough of it, shoot a deer, and then like on TV or whatever, and like, hey, well, it's not the deer I really thought it was. I wished it was bigger, but hey, and they start making excuses. Don't even make an excuse.
That's right.
You shot him.
Be proud of it.
Absolutely be proud of it. Absolutely.
Well, so, you mentioned in that, and I want to take it back, and we went on the archery tour and learned where you were there. You opened up an archery shop, is really where you got to meet the Realtree guys and started working on their bows. Monster Bucks 10, when David Blanton, you had pitched an idea, I believe, to him about doing something, and they invited you to that. What kind of feeling was that to just a good old Georgia boy at that moment?
Oh. Yeah, well, Glenn Garner was a cameraman for them, as well as David Blanton, and they both live here in LaGrange. So we lived together, and I lived in the same town, and I had my store. So at my store, they'd come by, and I'd been working on their bows for 2 or 3 years, and And because I had a background in tournaments, we would go set their little tournaments when they'd film the monster bucks. And I thought, man, this is, hey, I'm getting to work on the bows that are going all across the country, killing these deer. And, David would call us, and send us pictures right away whenever they kill one back then. And I mean, I'd made it. I was getting to shoot tournaments going around the country. I had my own little outdoor store and an archery shop, and I was getting to work behind the scenes there. And then, each year they'd say, we need to do something different. What do you think, T-Bone? And it wasn't T-Bone then. I wasn't even never been called T-Bone till then. So he said, what do you think, Trav? And I said, well, let's set this target. And then I pitched him the idea. I said, you should get, because Incomplete Deer Hunter was so popular, Jeff Foxworthy and the other guy, his name's Shane, Willie and Billy, you should get them to play, shoot against y'all. And whether it's trick photography or not, just let them just absolutely wipe the course up with you guys. Even if you have to fake it, just let them just wear you guys out and, like a pool shark, but it'd be an archery shark. And they said, man, that's a great idea. Let's see if Jeff's good for it. Well, Jeff was for it, but Shane, the other guy, he really is not a hunter. He's not against hunting. He just never has hunted or anything. And he goes, I don't really care to do that. Well, David and them said, well, let's get T-Bone to do. Let's get Travis to do that. So he came to me and said, we want you to play a character. You think you can come up with something, hickified? And I said, oh yeah. I went up to the truck stop right here in Hogansville. There was a truck stop long before there was a Love's up here, and they had them Bubba teeth behind the counter, $3.99. I bought me some Bubba teeth behind the counter. Had a big long floppy hat I put together and took an old whitetail hunter, because back then anybody that was 35 years or older had shot a whitetail hunter, because there was only about 6 bows made back in the late 80s and the early 80s and late 70s. So I put it together and I pitched it to him. I said, what do you think about this? And he said, oh, that is awesome. He goes, we're going to go with it. Jeff was loving it. And I was like, man, here's my 15 minutes of fame. I said, I've done pretty good shooting a bow, but I'm fixing to be on national television, man. Even if it's make my mama proud with these Bubba teeth. So with that said, we filmed it. And just before we started filming, they said, what are we going to call you? We need you to have a hick name. We got Willie and Billy, and we can't call you Travis. That's just not hickified enough. And he said, I threw it out there. I said, what about T-Bone? I said, that's short, easy to remember. And yep, T-Bone it is. I figured this is a one and done type thing. I figured we're going to do this one time. This is 1999 and that's it. And I'm like, well, at least I got one minute in fame. And man, it went over like gangbusters. Everybody loved it. They liked the comedy relief. They loved the breaking the monotony up of just hunt after hunt. And it seemed like everybody was playing it in their deer camps. And the women liked it and the kids liked it, and there was comedy involved, and Foxworthy was involved, and man, it kind of snowballed from there. And they just kept asking me to do more. And me, Michael, and Nick became really good friends through Realtree, and we're all about the same age and very similar. And that's when we started Bone Collector in 2007 and 2008. So yeah, it's crazy how my career path has went and how doors would open and such. But it wasn't like 25 years ago, I said, man, I'm going to be on TV one day. If you would have asked me in 1998 if I was going to be on TV, I'm like, no, I'm going to sit here and fletch arrows and work on people's bows probably the rest of my life. And that's it. But I still do that, but nonetheless, it's taking advantage of doors that have opened, and man, what a ride it's been.
You still got Sadie? Got
her. Yeah. Yep. She's got a cracked limb, but you can still shoot her. You just you gotta baby her, talk to her nice. She got a few shots left in her.
That was the bow that T-Bone shot. They had a fishing reel on the front of it and everything. And I've heard you made mention that before, that Sadie, that's your favorite bow that you've ever had because of where it started from for you.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely. Because man, it wouldn't have been here. So yeah, big thanks to David Blanton, for, taking a chance and believing in me. And, I guess we've always got along and always looked after each other. And, even Realtree, even though, we're Bone Collector and that's our own show and such, but man, we still believe Realtree and we still do so much with them. A lot of people think that we're kind of out on our own, but that's not, we're still just as tight as a tick with Realtree as we ever have been.
Does it go without saying that David Blanton is as good-hearted a man that he personifies on TV in real life?
He is basically the Mr. Rogers of the hunting industry.
That's a good way to put it. I had never thought
Yeah.
about it that way, but that's exactly a great way to put it.
And he's on a tear right now, man. He actually drove out into the west, and he is cyanide on some critters out there right now.
That's what I saw. Somebody had commented on social media that he had got. I think it was Nate Hosey had commented, "Man, you're on a riff already. Keep it up. It's going to be a great year." He's going to have him a T-bone year.
Yo, yeah, I ain't even been in the woods. I ain't been on a trip yet or nothing. So I'm not even going on my first trip till in October. So,
is that to Kansas?
Yeah, I'll be going to Oklahoma and Kansas. Yep. So I'll be going out there. Actually, it opened up Monday here, and the trail cameras are just telling me that I'm stupid for not being there right now. Cause I mean, there are 2 stomping
Kansas
right now. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean,
a friend of ours, he dropped one today, wasn't it?
Tony? Yeah. Today
he dropped a nice one out there.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna ask you a question real quick, T-Bone. Going back to David Blanton, I recently heard a podcast with David Blanton where he was talking about that at his age, as long as he's been bow hunting, he was going through some target panic.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that you helped him with that, but do you have any tips for anybody that may be going through target panic?
Yeah. And David has been going through that for quite some time, but it's one of those things that where until you're ready to, it's almost like being an alcoholic or whatever. You just got to admit that that what you have, and it's a process to get over. It's mind over matter, but he has, and a lot of people may have it and not even know that they have it, because, it's basically, you're punching the trigger and you're flinching, and then you have anticipation of the shot going off. So therefore you don't want to punch the release. So then you hold up low of the target, or to the left or to the right or whatever. But the best thing I would tell you is you'll read and see a lot of things on getting over target panic. And probably the number one thing is to shoot with your eyes closed. And, a lot of people have said that for years. And I even, way back when I went through it too. I mean, it's no joke. It's a bad deal. But because it's so silly, it's like,
yes,
all I got to do is put the pin on it and shoot the trigger. And and pull the trigger, and it should go there. Well, it's just so silly that you can't put the pin where you want to. And it's simply mind over matter. Had me crying on a mountain in Pennsylvania, shooting a Cabela's World Championships up there. I mean, I was like, golly, and it was the year after I'd won the World Championship. So a lot of eyes was on me, like, hey, this is the guy that he to beat, and this is the current world champion. And all that stress and anxiety just got me, man. And I was just eat up with it. But to get back to it, closing your eyes, a tip is I don't recommend closing your eyes anymore. And the reason why is because, like, when you close your eyes, if you think about it, like when you shoot across the bridge of your nose. So if you're right-handed, you're shooting kind of your eyes cocked to the side when you're aiming a rifle or a bow or anything like that. Well, if you close your eyes, and try this sometime, when you close your eyes automatically center back in your head. So like you close your eyes, you have to really force yourself to cock your eyes. They go right back in your head, or either roll up into your head. So I don't want I want them to get used to looking down range, but either take your sight off your bow, or take a piece of tape and cover up your pins so that you can't aim. We want you have to bring 2 things together. You have to aim without execution, and then you have to execute properly without aiming. So when you're practicing the execution, you just want to have a blank slate, stay there at 5, turn the lights off in the room, or just have a dim lit light. Have the target at shoulder height. Don't aim down. You don't want to aim shoulder height, and stand 5 yards from the target, and just execute a good shot. Just push, pull, squeeze. Imagine you're mashing a ball between your shoulder blades. Execute the shot. Just pull through the shot and just execute the shot. You don't have to aim, because you know how to aim, to bring the 2 together if you have target panic. So then you need to practice aiming without shooting. So when you're, hold the bow up with the pins, but don't shoot it. Just aim. Just get used to seeing that perfect sight picture of the pin where you want it on the target, and then either let down or, just imagine, even if you're just holding the bow, not draw it back, but just hold it up and just imagine and go through like, okay, I'm fixing to shoot the shot, and pow, good shot, held there. So you're imagining, you're pretending. And then even take an extra set of sights, and this works really, really well. Like when you're driving down the road, aiming at the tail light of the car that's in front of you when you're going to work, so that you're always, okay, I'm gonna shoot the corner of that tail light right there. And then just, take 10 seconds, 12 seconds, and go through that whole shot process. when you're sitting there watching TV in the recliner, aim at the light switch, commercial, aim at a lady's eyeball on the TV or just anything like that. And then you'll get repetition. Your mind will get used to doing that aiming part and seeing the perfect picture, and you pretending and imagine that the shot process was perfect. And then you do that for weeks on end. A lot of people think they can do this for 2 or 3 days and they're fixed. But you do that long enough, you're learning to shoot without aiming and aim without shooting. And then eventually you bring them together. And then I don't think if you had full-blown target panic, I don't think you ever get over it. I think that you learn to control it. So, I mean, a whole lot better. And it's one of the proudest moments I've ever had is, getting through it and getting onto it. So today, not to sound arrogant, but I feel like I can shoot any release out there, no matter if it's a hinge style back tension release, a T-handle, thumb release, pinky release, index finger. I can shoot it, execute it as good as I can execute it without a problem. Meaning, even if it's a $12 release or a $300 release, I can execute it properly. I'm not saying I'm going to be the best at it, but I'm just going to say I can execute that thing properly, how it needs to be shot, even if it's just grabbing it. And that's just learning how to go through the absolute shot process. And it'll help you with rifle, shotgun, anything, muzzleloader, any of that stuff. It's such good mental training for you. Is the strength and the being aggressive, not cocky, but aggressive, and being proactive as far as making a good shot. Yeah. It really strengthens a shot for no matter what you're doing. So yeah, target panic's no joke.
It's no joke. And I appreciate you putting it that way, all that together. I also appreciate you saying a lot of people don't realize that they do have it. A lot of people think that they're fine with it. But once it gets to a point, mine got to a point so bad that I couldn't control it. I bought 4, 5, 6 different releases, and now I'm shooting a back tension, and it's helped a lot. I still catch myself if I get in a hurry.
Yep.
That it, like, I want to even pull that back tension really quick. So I had to tell myself to stop.
Just wait.
Yeah. But that's helped me more. I don't know if I could go back to a finger release right yet, though.
Yeah. And some people never can, and then, everybody tries quick fixes. At the end of the day, you got to train your mind, like I was telling you, because, like I'm doing it with this, so that you change to another release. Well, yeah, that changes things for a little bit, but eventually your mind's learning that. Then you're going to learn to trick it. And we call it when someone can't put their finger on the trigger, or they slap at the trigger, or, punching the trigger. We call it like a drive-by. I mean, I've seen guys that have their finger behind the trigger and they go, boom, and they reach up there and do a drive-by. I mean, the guy who has no anticipation and punches the trigger can't be beat, meaning he's the most accurate there is, as long as he has no anticipation. But eventually, this hand is going to move a little bit before this hand. And it's going to be what it is he'll have a bunch of good shots because he's shooting at the opportune time. He's punching that trigger, no anticipation, no collapse on the shot, no flinching. When everything works timing wise, the most accurate you can be. But eventually you're going to collapse, you're going to flinch, this hand's going to move before this one, and you're going to have a bad flyer. So therefore, we've proven through time that if you shoot with good back tension, a push, a pull, expand your chest, tighten your back muscles, on that ball, that imaginary ball between your shoulder blades, so that the muscles are always working this way. You get that wall on a bow, you hit that wall, feel the wall, and then just kind of pull into it so that whenever the shot breaks, you're going to go this way. If you see somebody that stays still or does that, they knew the bow was going off. So that's not a good shot. You want it to be a surprise shot. But we've proven it. If you have 100 shots, someone that punches, when he does flinch or has an anticipation, his miss is going to be a big time, 6, 8, 10 inches away. Sometimes even miss the target. Whereas the guy that tries to shoot the best back tension, push, pull, squeeze, aim, he's aiming, but he's watching that pin just move all the time. It never sits still. I don't care how strong you are, how good you are. You're just waiting on it. And all you got to do is stare where you want to hit and just let this move in the foreground and then let the shot happen. Well, that guy may not the shot may go off when it's over here, but he's always going to be like this. He's never going to have those big flyers or those huge misses. He's always going to be more consistent and a better shot and a stronger mental shooter by doing so. But like I was telling you, a guy that's got the perfect timing, he's always going to win out, but it always jumps on him in times of buck fever, doe fever, or shooting for $10,000 in the world championship. That monkey's going to get all over you, boy. I mean, you ain't going to be able to handle it.
Well, a lot of people even think, like you said, a lot of people think the pros and don't even have it like yourself. And I also heard Levi Morgan here recently talk about, he's like, I went back to the car and told Samantha that I've won competitions and I shouldn't have won because my target panic was so bad in there.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. I guarantee you. Well, he's basically a freak of nature anyway. So
that's right.
His worst day is about as good as any of our best days.
Well, I want to get this in here because I thought about it earlier today when I, spoke with you and I got to looking back on some of this stuff. When you were able to go and take that cat, what was that experience like for you?
Well, I was a little upset with Nick on that because Nick was kind of putting that hunt together, and I thought we was just going on a mule deer hunt.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, we went for a mule deer hunt. Well, when we landed, all I brought was I had the old 30-06 is all I had. So he says we land in Dundee is our guide, which he actually a game warden, but he was my guide, and he goes, it's kind of funny. Dundee's, if you've watched the show, he's kind of a California accent. He's full-blooded Navajo, but he's got a real high-pitched voice and kind of sounds like a surfer dude too. But he goes, "Hey T-Bone, man," he goes, "we got you a kitty cat tag, man. What do you think about that?" Well, first thing I thought of is I'm like, I've seen kitty cat hunts, which you hunt them on dogs and stuff, and I'm like, I ain't built for no kitty cat hunting, climbing mountains and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, I'm Dundee. I'm being serious. I probably let y'all down. He goes, "No worries, man. The cat get up in a tree. You get to him, we good. You don't get to him, we know no big deal." And I'm like, all right, man. So I was sweating that the whole time, but I was upset. I was like, the first day we're mule deer hunting, we was riding around, and I was like, man, I wished I would have known that we had a cat tag. I'd have brought my bow because I want to kill that with my bow. And he goes, "Don't worry about it, T-Bone. You can use my bow, man." So I'm thinking, I wonder what kind of bow Dondee's got. It's probably like a 20-year-old bear or an old high country, something like that. And he goes, I said, "What kind of bow you got?" He goes, "Nothing but the best for me, man. I got a Hoyt Carbon Element, bro." I was like, man, this is gonna work out. This is perfect. So he brought his bow with him every day. I never shot the thing. He's like a 28-inch draw. We wasn't the same. I didn't even look at the bow. I did not look at it. He just said, "I got broadheads and everything," because we was mainly wanting a mule deer. That was just a bonus if we had a cat tag. Hunted all week long. Didn't see hardly any mature deer at all. The last day, we had cut a track and we treed one cat, but it was a small tom. So or we released the hounds, and the houndsman was working the dogs, and we were, now granted, this is 17 million acres. So we were mule deer hunting 2 hours away. So we got the dogs off because you got to be there when you release the dogs. And then another guy can run the dogs, and then you just come back to them. But we have to be there when the hounds release. The hunter does. So we released the hounds that morning, daylight. We went mule deer hunting all day long. He got a tom. He said, but he goes, "It's a real young tom." He goes, "I don't, we could get to it, but I don't think we should get it." So we pulled the dogs off. So we had one that we could have shot. So the last morning, it's mid-morning, and we're like, man, I hope we just, there's a little bit of pressure. We're trying to get a show out of this. We got thousands and thousands of dollars of travel and production team and all that stuff out there. It's like, man, if you don't get a critter, you ain't got a show. And Nick was up in the high country, and he hadn't killed one yet. And he was hunting like 3 hours away from us. So we wasn't even in camp together. We were staying in a motel, and Nick and them was in another motel 3.5 hours away. 17 million acres is the size of West Virginia, the whole state, guys. So that's a pretty good thing. So pretty good size. So we come around this curve, and we see some mule deer down there, and we're sitting there, glassing, trying to find a good buck in there, and they're starting to get ruddy. It's just after Christmas. So the guy calls, he goes, "Hey, I got a cat, man. I got a pretty good cat now. The dogs are on him right now. So be ready, y'all." We had a 2-hour drive to get to him.
Oh.
So we're making our way out of this pasture. They call it a pasture, but we're talking 100,000 acres. They call it, oh yeah, we're hunting that pasture. But I'm telling you, it's about like Cobb County is what I'm saying. It's the size of Cobb County. So we're making our way out of this pasture. We top this hill, and then there's 2 bucks chasing this one doe, and one of them's a monster, man. I mean, a stomper. I was like, oh man, that's a good one. So we put a stalk on it. We stopped. We were supposed to be going for the cat, but I'm like, me and Dondi said, the dogs will hold it, man. The dogs have got it in the tree, man. He's gonna wait for us. So we put a stalk on it, and it was a good one. It was like 100 high 180. So we shot it, did some B-roll stuff that we needed to do, took pictures, gutted it, got it loaded up, and then there we go. 2-hour drive. We're going over there, and I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna have to shoot his bow, and I've never shot it.
Oh.
So it was about I guess half mile. It wasn't too. It was uphill, but it was about a half mile walk in there. We drove as close as we could. Half mile walk in there, and I said, man, this is fixing to happen. I got Dondi's bow. I'm toting it in there, and I'm using his release. He's got 3 arrows. That's all he's got, 3 arrows and broadheads. And I put it in there, and they had to pull all the dogs up. So you have to put all the dogs not up, but chain them up, because if I shoot the cat and the cat falls out, and then the dogs go in, they could get cut up if the arrow doesn't go all the way through. So, I'm range finding that it's 12 yards. It's only 12 yards up in a tree, but you think about 12 yards. I mean, that is 40 something, that's on up in a tree, 36 foot in a tree. So he's up there. It's a ponderosa pine. And so I draw back, and they said, don't shoot yet. And I said, no, I'm not shooting. I said, I hadn't even shot this bow yet. I only had 3 arrows. I hadn't even shot it into the ground. I'm like, I'm just from all my years of looking down the arrow, and just, I was just getting a feel for everything. And I'm like, man, I got this. I got it. I mean, I'm not cocky, but I think I got it. Then I got to thinking, I'm like, this is probably wrong. I said, but if I don't hit it exactly right, the dogs are here going to get it, going to get right back on it. So I draw back, and I said, I'm ready if y'all are. And it's everybody ready. And I drawed back. I mean, if there was I probably couldn't do it again, but if there was a quarter on the size of that where I was wanting to aim, I hit that quarter. I mean, it was perfect. Cat fell out, didn't run 40 yards, done. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this was borrowed the game warden's bow. I mean, is that not a redneck dream right there? Georgia DNR, hey guys, let me borrow your bow. I'm fixing to shoot this old cat. I was like, golly, that's a story and a half. And then plus, what's the chances of the game warden shooting a Hoyt bow?
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty good game warden.
Yeah, it just added to it. So he says, you're probably not even gonna mount this thing. I'm like, Dundee, I said, as big of a redneck as I am, I would have never ever thought I was gonna shoot a mountain lion. I mean, for me to check that off the redneck to-do list, I'm like, you dang right, I'm getting that thing mounted. So it's in the living room. The mule deer and the cat, both in the living room right there, mounted together.
You still top whitetails is the best to chase for you?
It is for me. I mean, people ask, what do you want to kill next? Or, and honestly, if I don't kill another cockroach in my life, I have already far outlived my dreams. But the one thing I would like to do is, I've killed elk, mule deer, and that I'd like to do a Yukon float trip with a bow for a moose. I'd like to do that. I would like to do that, but if I don't, I'm fine. But yeah, whitetails are the best for me because they're so diverse. I mean, everybody in the United States can relate to them, no matter what size, and everyone's different. It's just like a fingerprint. They're so different. And the way we hunt them in Georgia ain't the way they do it in Florida, and ain't the way they do it in Wyoming. And every state's a little different. And it's so diverse. And, and there's just, big bodies in Midwest, and, so much corn, and, you get, every state is so different and it's so diverse, and you get to enjoy the whole backdrop of that state or wherever you're hunting, and you're still chasing the common denominator of a whitetail that everybody can relate to. So yeah, and I've gotten here lately into the management part. Well, I shouldn't say lately. For 20 years, I've always loved the management part, but I've got to where I love riding on a tractor or a skid steer or anything that does the land improving and conservation. That just adds to the pride factor to me, and that means as much, if not more, than sending an arrow through the side of one of them.
And growing them for the future is where you're at now. And I've heard you say that several times, especially last year's last year's Georgia season for you, not even counting what you were able to do out of state, but last year for a Georgia season to be like that in the 80s, there was not even a figment of your imagination that could dream that up.
No.
Now I mean, you've killed, you killed two, I mean, deer
Studs.
that anybody in the Midwest, especially one of them, would dream of killing.
Oh yeah.
And you did it in your home state. And that, man, that had to be, not besides being on your own piece of property, just in your home state, that had to be a very, very humbling feeling.
It was super, super surreal. I mean, I still don't, I can't believe it. I mean, yeah, both of those deer are just amazing. And they blew up from the year before. I knew the deer well. And both of those deer, and I'm not the guy to say that, because, you know, you hear these people like, he put on 30 inches since last year. I'm like, yeah, right. Deer just don't do that. But I promise you, my hand on a Bible, both those deer put 25 inches on from the year before. Now, I ain't saying that. I'm not saying that something that I fed them or something that I did. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it was a freak year. Maybe the right amount of waterfall. I mean, rainfall, no stress on them. Food plots we got planted. I'm not saying it's something that I know I did. I'm just saying it was the perfect storm, because I mean, everything just like both of those deer blew up. Unbelievable. I was trying the big non-typical I shot with a muzzleloader. I was trying to kill it the year before. I mean, I'm like, I know he's 5.5. I'm fixing to throttle him. The only thing saved him was the camera light. I told myself, if I kill it, I want to film it.
Right.
And in the times I seen him, I could have killed him. You know, if it was just hunting, I could have killed him, but it was too dark for the camera. So I let him go. And man, I'm glad I did, because man, he really blew up.
And that's crazy. That's something we're just now learning, is how quick camera light goes away. I know here opening weekend, that evening I hunted, and it gets legal shooting light was till 8:20.
Yeah.
7:55, I had no camera light. I'm like, I know these deer are coming at 8:10. Am I going to wait it out? No, I need to get down and get my butt out of here, because I wanted to get one on camera. And that's part of it.
That was the way it was that morning. I didn't realize I could see fine. I flip that camera on, try to look at something, nothing.
And that's something we're really learning as this is the first year that we've done any filming. We started the podcast and we wanted to kind of show our journey. And I'll be honest with you, Nick made some amazing turkey hunting videos. He only got 1 kill on camera, and I love going back and watching those turkey videos just to watch his story, because it ties into everything.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's fun to document that kind of stuff, because it's in your mind, but this way you can share it with your buddies, and you can see all the things you may have messed up on. And I like it, being an archery nut and guru. I like to analyze the deer dropping, and why did he drop at 31 yards and yet they didn't seem to do so much at 24. I mix all that in with my archery anal guru master or whatever, and I just like trying to learn more of it. So I like watching all that stuff, and lighted knock just syncing up, and there's just a lot that goes to that. But to answer your point, or to make to add to your point, that camera has saved a lot of deer's lives. I'm telling you that right now. Because when you're filming a show like us, when you're filming a show like so many people do, you're not hunting for yourself. You're hunting for that camera.
That's right.
I can't tell you how many big bucks that I was not allowed to shoot because the camera couldn't see it because of a tree or light or something like that. And I'm like, sorry about that. I don't even know who that is. Look at that. Potential spam.
Calling about your car's extended warranty.
Yeah. I like spam. I like fried spam, not potential spam.
That's like what you buy. That's what you buy at Dollar General, potential spam.
That's right. It could be spam, and maybe not.
Hey T-Bone, how about let's talk about food plots a little bit real quick. I know you bought the property that you're on now, and you like you said, you enjoy working it. What's a favorite mix or plot that you like to put out this time of year?
Well, every piece of property is different, as to how you're going to utilize it. But to speak to the masses, and mainly like when I talk about food plots and stuff, I guess it could pertain to all across the country, but my knowledge is more so in the Southeast, Georgia, Southeast. So with that said, soybeans are king, but you can't hardly plant enough of them. Anything like a pea, an Australian winter pea, iron clay pea, those all work great. However, you just can't plant enough of them unless you've got 3 and 4 and 5 acres. you're not going to be able to plant enough that they can't mow them down. So what has worked the best for me, and the reason I say this is the ground around here, especially in the coastal Piedmont region, the center part of the state, is so hard. It's such clay based. I mean, it's like trying to plant. Sometimes it's like trying to plant a parking lot at Ingles. You know, I mean, it's just tougher. Yeah, tougher than woodpecker lips. So I only want to plow the dirt one time a year. You know what I mean? Because if you have to bust that dirt, and a lot of people, because you know the number one cash crop in Georgia is a pine tree.
That's right.
And most people are hunting, a timber company land, and all they're going to give you to plant is a road bed, or are you going to have to plant where they
A landing there.
Yeah, a landing or a dock, and that they've already taken all those topsoil away, and it's been packed with all them trucks and skidders and hydraxes running over it. So you got a hard road to hoe, coming on top of that. So with that said, we don't have large areas. I mean, sometimes you do, that you can get away with planting corn and soybeans and such, and that's good. That's a different story. But for the masses, I'm sure it's mainly the guys that's only got, if you've got 100 acres, you probably can only plant like 5, 6, 7 acres of that 100 if you're lucky. So you're going in there, and what's worked best for me is, and trust me guys, over 20 something years, I have planted everything, man. I'm telling you, I've tried it all. And this ain't no seed pitch. This is bona fide. This is what has worked best for me. You want something that you can hunt over, definitely, that the deer will love in the fall time. And the product that has been the best for me, that can handle the drought, it can handle heavy grazing, and it's cold tolerant. So the once you get in the later part of the season, when we do have them times that it dips below 30, it can handle the cold, and it still grows in that with the cold ground temperatures, is buck forage oats. It's been around for years, and everybody says, well, they're pretty expensive, or I'll just plant. There's all kinds of different oats. If people don't already know, there's horse oats, you got Goliath oats. There's so many different types of oats, and they're great for grazing, because a lot of times they're produced for silage for cattle and for feed. So a lot of times they'll try to sell you on planting a lot of oats, Goliath oats, that, hey, this will produce more tonnage for you guys. This is what you want to plant for your food plots. And to your eye, it's like, man, look at all that food out there. But you got to understand, once it gets so tall, it's not palatable anymore. Deer's not eating it. It looks good. You're not seeing any of that red clay soil, because there's so much oats out there, but they don't eat it. And we all know, no matter how good your food plots look, if they're not eating it, it ain't doing what you need it to do. So with buck forage oats, it's a dwarf oat. So it's really drought tolerant, it's cold tolerant, and it handles heavy grazing. It bounces back real good on the grazing, and it stays young and tender all the way from when you plant it at the end of August. Or I don't like to plant. We haven't even planted yet. I don't even plant till after September 20th because of army worms. So a lot of people always plant their food plots around Labor Day. They just feel like, I got to get it in at Labor Day, but you're susceptible to getting eat up by army worms. So I don't even plant until after September 20th. Buck forage oats, that's going to be my kill plot, so to speak. That's going to be what the deer are coming to mostly. And what I've done since then is so that I can get them, oats or anything that's a cereal or a grain is going to die out. It's done. It's done probably by the end of February. You'll get good out until then, and then that's done. And then you don't have nothing for turkey season. You're either going to have to plant something for turkey season for spring, or for your deer for spring. And then we're back into having to bust your ground again. You're spending time at the hunting club. You're spending diesel fuel. So what I do is I come up with this blend with Arrow Seed Company, which the reason I chose them is because they will make what I want. So it's got white clover, it's got medium red clover, which are both perennials. It's got chicory, which if you've ever planted chicory is 38% protein, and it is hardy. I mean, you can't hardly kill it. Great for a food plot. And then it's got 2 types of alfalfa. Now, alfalfa doesn't do good in Georgia. There are some types of alfalfa that will do good, but you got to plant a lot of it, like your soybeans. But I put the alfalfa in there because they love it so much. And I know that that's 5 seeds that I've got in there as a perennial that'll bounce back every year after year. But the alfalfa usually doesn't, but I know I'll get one good year out of it. So hear me out. I plant that, and it grows underneath this oats all fall long. And there is some stuff there for them to eat. They do eat it. But where it shines is if you'll go back and you'll take care of your food plots all year long, whenever the buck forage oats is done, I mean, they're nipping on it all along, but they're mainly focusing on the buck forage oats. So then in February or end of February, 1st of March, you go in there and spray it with like a Post. That's the brand. It kills all of your weeds and all of your grasses, and it leaves your perennials or an Intensity. That's an off brand of it. We spray Intensity, kills all the grains, kills all that, and then the only thing you got left is clover, chicory, and alfalfa, which thrives from 1st of March. They look fantastic for your turkey strut zones. The turkeys love it. They're in there picking up the clover. And then in them same food plots that I've planted, it'll go all the way. You put a little fertilizer on it, like a 0-20-20 with no nitrogen throughout the spring. And that'll take you all the way back to the time to plow it up again. And even when you, like we chisel plow it, even a lot of that perennial stays even after you've chisel plowed it. So then you just go through it all over again, do the same thing. You plant it one time a year and you're getting a full 11 and a half months of your food plots looking absolutely perfect, top notch that whole time. Anybody that ever goes to their hunting club, usually in March or April, they go down there and they're like, man, just a bunch of weeds and don't look good. And it's like, man, it looks so good in November, but it looks like Fido's butt now. So this way you can get, you could probably get more out of that because it is a perennial, but there's no way I'm going to go into a fall season without my buck forage oats on there, because they work so well as far as the deer loving them. They come to them and it handles the grazing and such so good. So that is the recipe that's worked pretty good for me. If you're just plowing one time, trying to maximize the opportunity and trying to save a penny or two, that's what's worked good for me, so that I can get 11 and a half months out of it. And the tonnage that it produces is invaluable. And with corn the way it is now, I'd much rather put a $40 bag of seed in the ground and get so much tonnage out of it than having to go pay $12 a bag for corn after corn after corn after corn after corn.
Have you seen a big number of armyworms taking over down there this year? We've had a lot up here. They've eaten my yard up. Hey, Alex is up. We've had a lot at work eat up.
Yep. Yeah, it really has. And anything that's new growth, hay fields, a lot of guys have had their hay fields. This has been the worst year I've ever seen on armyworms. Yeah,
all the podcasts I listen to, they're fighting them bad, especially out towards Mississippi and stuff.
Yeah, Arkansas's hit real bad. Sod farms. Can you imagine if you was in a sod business and that happened? Oh my gosh.
We had a whole life gone.
We laid a yard the other day at work, or the guys laid a yard, and I left on a Friday and came back on Monday, and it was brown. And they had some granules that they were able to come in there and spray on it and put it out, and it's as green as ever right now.
That's good.
Yeah. So
yeah. But I from what I understand, that I forget the name of that chemical, but it's not cheap either.
No, I don't think so. It was a good granule. And I told my brother the other day, because we just planted our plots last Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, we need to keep an eye on it, because if those armyworms start coming, we need to put something on it. Because, like you said, you get a lot of money invested in it. You don't want it just to be a dirt pit out there. It's going to be hard to kill a deer out of that.
Yeah. And then again, a lot of these guys, it's time, you're working 40, 50 hours a week. And then everybody takes off and lines it up, say, look, guys, we got 3 days window here. This is when we're doing our planting. It's hard to do that anymore. You want to take those days and you want to be hunting those days instead of planting again.
Yeah. You got a good tale to tell on Waddy or on Nick?
Didn't Nick Nick told one on Michael.
Yeah.
So
you can pick.
Michael always picks on I'll tell you one on Nick. Michael always picks on his dad about not pronouncing things correctly, about saying the wrong things, like calls it not his peach orchard, he calls it a peach orchid. And then he calls when you say let me paint this scenario for you, he goes, let me paint this sendero for you, like a sendero. And I told Waddell,
the slang coming out.
Oh yeah. I said, Waddell, we need to write down every one that Paw them says, but so that we can write a book one day, because man, that'd be hilarious. And he said, yeah, we got to start doing that. And I'm like, and I was telling him, this was about 6 months ago, I said, Waddell, I said, we're getting at that age, we got a whole dictionary of bad words that we're coming up with. He goes, yeah, I know it. And I get on to Waddell all the time, because if you've been around him, well, we all can talk a lot, but Waddell is the king. He could talk the horns off a billy goat. I'm telling you. And he says, he always says when he's telling a story, well, long story short, and you're 3 hours into a story, and he goes, well, long story short. And I'm like, no, well, short story long. How about that? Short story long. So we give him fits about that. And he always says he can't say second, like first place, third place, second place, right? That's how you say it. He goes second, like sack, S-A-C-K, second. You listen to a podcast that Waddell's on, and if he says second, he can't say second. He says second.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah.
I want to kind of let Nick take the role for a second, Travis, because we've got a couple of questions we always ask at the end of the show, and when Nick gets finished with those couple of questions, I've got something that we'll close it out on. But Nick's got some good ones that I think you'll like.
Well, now I got a good story on Nick if you want it.
Oh
Yeah,
we
yeah.
want it. No, we just
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, you ain't. I was just giving you a little appetizer on Waddell.
Oh, okay, my bad. No, keep it going. I love it.
So it's no secret that Nick is a he probably loves to be the globe-trotting hunter of all of us. You know what I mean? That we always say the key to a happy camp is make sure that Nick gets put on the biggest deer and in the best spot, and then it'll be a good camp for everybody. We give him fits like that when we show up. So before we started Bone Collector, we was all friends, like we said. So this is a friend of ours, Corey Knowlton. He owns the hunting consortium where if you want to go hunt, he was on the show with Jim Shockey, Uncharted for a long time. He's not on TV anymore. He's the person you call if you want to go kill a Sanatar ibex in Turkey, or all these weird things. He's the one that connects you. He's a world hunting consortium. So he is worldwide hunter, and him and Nick have been friends for a long time, even longer than us. So Nick was running a camera long before we started Bone Collector. He ran a camera for Realtree. I'm sure he told you that. And Corey had approached him, and Corey's got a pretty good wallet backing him up. Said, look here, Nick, I want you to come. Me and my dad, we're going to Russia, and we're shooting brown bear in Russia. Now I want you to come and film us in Russia. It's a 3-day trip just to get there. And he said, I want you to come. He goes, I'll either pay you $10,000 or I'll buy you a bear. I'll buy you a brown bear hunt. And then, you can kill one while you're there. He said, man, and then this was a time long before Bone Collector when Nick was basically living under a bridge culvert. I mean, he didn't have two nickels to rub together. He was, I swear, I mean, he was, could have used the money, but he's like, you know what, man, this is opportunity of a lifetime. I want one of those, these are big brown bears. I don't know if you've ever heard of the ones they kill in Russia, a lot bigger than the Alaska and the Canadian brown bear. These are monsters, 10, 11 foot tall. Said, okay, I want that brown bear. So they went. He told us all about it. It's a great story of them getting over there. They're flying in like a 1940s helicopter. They're on Sea-Doos that they pieced together. I mean, snowmobiles that they pieced together, 1940 snowmobiles. The tanks exposed. There ain't no fiberglass on it nowhere. It's just looks like somebody took one of those old Snapper Comets and turned it into a snowmobile. He showed us pictures. So anyway, he goes. Long story short, they all three kill the good bear. They come back, and it's great. It's an awesome bear, 10 foot, having it mounted. So him and his dad's a big hunter too. Nick's dad is a big hunter, and this is before Bone Collector. And their dream hunt was them to go bear hunting in Canada together. Mm-hmm. So this is either a year or two later. Corey comes to again and said, look, we're going back again. And he goes, we're going to Russia, and the same thing. If you would like to, go, I'll pay you $10,000. You do all the filming and stuff. I'll pay you to come, pay your way and everything, or I'll, give you a brown bear. And he goes, man, that's awesome, Corey. He goes, I appreciate it. He goes, you know what? Me and my dad have always wanted to share camp, and my dad has wanted to kill a big brown bear. He goes, is there any way that my dad could go with us? And he said, he tells the story, a lot or I tell it for him actually in a lot of seminars we do. And he goes, is there any way that my dad could go with us. And he says, yeah, he can go. He says, that's not a problem at all. And I'm thinking, like, he's telling this story. I'm like, dang, man, that's awesome of Nick. You know, like, he's not going to make a dime on this. He's going to go over there and he's taking his dad so that he can kill a brown bear. They're going to be in camp with Corey and his dad in Russia. There's the long travel, you know, that's awesome, man. So they get over there, you know, and they're going, and I'm like, he's telling this story, and he goes, yep, Dad was up. It was his time to kill a bear. He killed a bear, and then he goes, then it was my turn. I said, what do you mean your turn? He goes, I didn't give Dad the free damn bear. I ain't that dumb. Dad's got his own money. He bought his own hunt. So the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, man, Nick giving his dad a bear hunt. But typical Nick, he's like, no, I don't need the money either. I'm living in a bridge culvert, but hey, nonetheless, I've got 2 big ass brown bear now. Dad had to buy his own.
Oh my goodness. I wish we'd heard that story before we got Nick on. We'll ask him about that next time. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not see that turn coming for sure.
Oh yeah.
My dad would have been like, this is my bear. You're not getting one this year.
That's right. That was so funny. Yeah. I mean, he told it, and the first time he told it, we was, you know, talking to a couple hundred people, and me and Michael are just listening to the story, and I'm like, I'm getting choked up a little bit. I'm like, man, old softy Nick, man, that's awesome. And he goes, and then true Nick come out, because he is, I don't want to say game hog, because that's pretty harsh, but man, he loves this stuff. He built his whole house. He just got through with his house, and he built it all around his trophy room, man. I mean, he's got a trophy room and that's what makes Nick Nick. I'm not beating him up. I mean, we love him for that, but man, he loves his stuff. Like he's in Alaska right now, in the
Giza Ridge.
Yeah, on Giza Ridge, and he's up there killing another moose, and he's got like 4 of them. I mean, how many 70-inch moose do you need?
That's a trip right there that has, it's been so neat to see somebody like Nick go on. And that's one of my favorite. I saw on his story that he had checked in on Instagram, and yep. It was so neat to see that and hear. You can tell the excitement in his voice when he talks about it. That, oh yeah, and that's with anything with Nick especially. He is just so excited to tell a story or do anything it is. I think the guy could be excited about lighting an ant bed on fire in the backyard. Yeah. I mean, he's just
he is the best person to have in camp. I mean, he is. From when he was a guide and a cameraman, I mean, he is the perfect person, meaning like he's fun to be around. And then like when anybody kills something, he's the first one in there. He wants to gut everybody's stuff. He's there out there helping everybody skin. I mean, he is the ultimate person to be in camp. He just loves everything about it. I mean, just can't get enough of it, and just celebrates no matter what anybody kills or anything. He just loves it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. When's your opening day for Georgia?
Well, I'm just watching cameras right now, to be honest with you. I mean, I would have already been, but I just don't want to pressure. I don't have a ton of land here, and I'm just letting the cameras do the work for me. I don't want to just go sit and kind of revert things back to nocturnal. I'm trying to see what I need to see in daylight, and then I'll go. So we actually, today, I spent about 4 hours putting up 4 more cameras. I'm trying to position them to where everything is, you know, just exactly right.
What are you looking at?
It looks like somebody.
Oh, in that window back there. I think it's a wind chime.
It looks like something's in that window back there. I'm like, somebody's about to get you.
Probably there's a wind chime over here.
I was like, something's about to get you.
Well, if there's somebody in that window, they got to be about 14 foot tall.
Look, it's lighting up.
Oh, yeah, it's that wind chime. I saw it a minute ago when it
turns. It looks like
right there.
Yeah, it looks like a face mask.
Well, actually, the wind chime is chime's over there.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
you can see the reflection in that window or something. I saw it a minute ago.
I was thinking is that Ring, the movie.
Oh, the Ring, that lady face. Don't be look at him. He gonna be.
You know what I'm surprised you didn't talk with him about was the MMA stuff as much as you like it. And
I love MMA. Man.
Oh man, I am eat up with that too. And I tell you, my heartbreak for the whole MMA game was when Brock Lesnar beat Randy Couture. That really broke my heart into that old era of the old school dudes. and now you got these new guys coming in. It just
Yeah.
ain't as fun to watch as the Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture days.
It is a different time. Yeah, for sure. Man, I love it. I'll have to include you on Instagram. We got a bunch of people within the industry that are really true. We got a UFC group that we always take back and forth and talk about news all the time. So, talking about Jake Paul, the Paul,
Oh yeah.
he keeps fighting so many smaller weighted guys. You know who everybody keeps saying, why don't you fight somebody your own size? I'm thinking John Jones would be perfect, wouldn't he? 205
or Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
But go fight Anderson Silva. You don't see him calling him out.
No, Yeah, he's an old man, but fight him. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to.
No way.
Call St. Pierre out. I'd like to see George back. I'd be the one to knock his ass out and get it over with.
Exactly.
Oh, we go on. I could go on. You better quit, Nick. You're gonna have me all night. I'll be fired up fighting the bed cheats tonight.
Travis, we always T-Bone. We always end the episode with all the new guests, unless we've had somebody return. And man, I've been thinking about this all day, and since Alex had got in touch with you, how I was going to ask this first question, because you're so versed in the outdoors. But if you had one piece of advice that you'd give somebody, what would it be? And it could pertain to bow hunting, life in general. It doesn't matter. But if you just got one big piece of advice.
Probably what helped me is just pursue your passion. Like so many kids, like you see so many kids, like I know my journey, like when you get out of high school, I wasn't that great at school. I have attention deficit disorder. Like I can't focus on nothing. I'm all over the place. I mean, I'm very productive, but I'm scatterbrained. I mean, I'm working on this, working on that. I'm staying busy, but I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. And even in today's age, it's almost like we're brainwashed. You got to go to college. Well, why are you going to college? I don't know. It just seems like that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to college. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think there's a lot of people that we're losing people that are going to Votech. You need to learn a trade, a skill. That's always going to be heating and air conditioning, all that kind of stuff. I went to heating and air conditioning school. I got a degree in that. And I knew once I graduated, I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. But my dad and my uncle told me, he said, if you'll do something that you're passionate about, you'll never feel like you worked a day in your life. And I got to say that's true. I mean, I've been real fortunate to carve out a living in this, but you can ask, we got a lot of mutual friends. You can ask Lonnie and Glenn and a lot of Todd and all of them. I mean, there were some humble times when I started my own business. I mean, you go a whole week and that cash register wouldn't even ring $110 for the whole week. And I'm like, I kept asking myself, I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm not, if I'm going to have a family, this is the wrong thing. But you didn't feel like you worked. You could put 80 hours a week in on something that you're passionate about, and it never feels like you worked a day in your life. I mean, even now, like I'll quit at the end of the day, and I really have to think. Like now, I'm like, man, you know what? I didn't even work today. I just kind of sat around here. But then you think, I'm like, well, hell, I didn't. Here it is. I'm like, look, like it's 8:30 at night, and I'm still going.
Yeah.
And it's work. I mean, all of it's work. So, but I don't even think about that because it's something that you love. So, I would tell someone, and through Instagram and social media, you get a lot of that. But and there's so many more opportunities with the internet and ways to make a living and stuff. Pursue your passion. Life is too short to do a job that you freaking hate 40 hours a week and you're stressed out and have anxiety and such to keep doing that. So, big picture, people say, how do you get into the outdoor industry? I didn't, it wasn't, I went through open doors to get where I am. I'm not saying that it's cut out for everybody to do this, but someone young and they don't have the money to have their own show or do this or that and the other, do it in their off time. And then also film the stuff just like y'all guys are doing. It may come to that. Or if you wanted to be a freelance, if you don't have two nickels to rub together, you become a freelance cameraman. And with people needing stuff on social media and TV shows and YouTube and digital platforms, there's always a need for camera guys, and there's always a need for people doing editing and stuff like that. And this way you get to travel the whole country. You get to go on a ton of different hunts. The only thing you don't get to do is pull the trigger and get a taxidermy bill. Other than that, you're getting paid to go around the whole country and live the lifestyle of a hunter, not to mention meet some fantastic people and then you're getting a paycheck for it. So being a freelance cameraman is not such a bad gig, and that's a great way for someone in their early 20s to get started. So yeah, pursue your passion, you know, and before you know it, you'll be 55 years old and done carved out a pretty decent living.
Yeah. Well, I always ask this question last, unless I think of something later. But what are you most thankful for, T-Bone?
Most thankful. Just I get you know, family and friends, and you know, family, just simple things. You know, the older I get, I used to think and this COVID has shed a lot of light on it. I'm trying to think deep, guys, and I mean, I'm just thankful for, like, for the last 15 years, I've traveled. You know, we all do a lot of public speaking. I'm the national spokesperson for Whitetails Unlimited, so you know, I do 40 or 50 events a year, and I'm traveling even during the off season. I mean, I'm traveling all the time, and gone from the family and all. And I felt like, because I did own my own business, that I had to do that, because you know, you got to take advantage of while it's there. Well, when COVID happened, naturally public speaking and all that kind of stuff, you know, shut down, which was, you know, luckily I'd saved a few pennies, and we're okay with that. And, you know, you have other ways of revenue with our show and stuff. So I was okay, but it let me see that I don't have to go with my hair on fire. You know what I mean? Like, I need to slow down. And you know what I've really enjoyed this is going to sound silly, but me and 3 or 4 or 5 local guys around here, that my buddies that live right around here, we get together and eat lunch every day. And I look forward to that about as much as anything. Or when my wife's not working, or when she wasn't working because she's a school teacher, spending 30 or 45 minutes on the back porch, drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, just rocking on a chair with my wife, looking in our backyard. Man, that has meant the world. I mean, that seems so simple, but that means the world to me. And then, of course, anytime I can spend in a tractor or a skid steer, diesel therapy, golly, I mean, honestly, if you ask me right now, what would you want to do? What would be the perfect day? Me and my buddy Brian, we went to Mississippi yesterday to pick up an implement. And I said, what would be the perfect day for you? And he goes, man, I don't know. He goes, life's been so weird lately. I don't know. You know, you think, well, I don't want to go surfing in Hawaii, or I want to go catch a sailfish in Florida or something like that. And I told him, I said, honestly, the perfect day to me is to wake up, drink a cup of coffee with my wife, go get on the skid steer, run about 1.5 tanks of fuel through it, not have no breakdowns, and then, you know, come back in and put some venison or elk on the grill and sit down and watch a movie with my family. That's like the perfect day to me. I mean, I'm not going anywhere or anything. So it makes me, I guess, proud. I guess I'm getting older, you know, but those simple things mean the most to me. And we talked with Waddell. Waddell's the same way. He's like, man, he goes, I like going on these hunts, but man, I sure do like home pretty good too now. And yeah, I know he's on a 3-week run right now, so I know he's ready to be home too. So, but yeah, I guess that's it. Sorry about the long answer on that, but that's kind of
perfect.
I can appreciate you answering that way. And I started asking these questions, I don't know, what episode,
3 or 4 in.
Yeah, I mean, we wasn't far in, and I've asked it a different way all the time, but I'll tell you what, after this past week, man, and I don't mean to go on this right here real quick, but we lost a dear friend of ours, and he was on a podcast with us earlier, and he left what he was thankful for, and you know, it was a good Lord, and I cherish that he was able to do that. And now his son or myself or Alex or anybody else can go back and listen to that. And
yeah,
and just because somebody think, man, why does he just keep asking what they're thankful for? One day somebody can go back and listen to his or her voice.
Yeah,
and hear it if they want to. So like Alex always said, we mount these memories, and we're mounting this memory with podcasts and people that come on it. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Also appreciate who you are. I mean, it doesn't matter if you run into you at the GON Outdoor Blast, or if we ran into you before at the Adventure Outdoors with the Whitetails Unlimited, and you're the same person. It doesn't matter. So TV person, it doesn't matter. I appreciate you being that way, because you're a big influence in this sport that we do.
Well, yeah. Is that a fat joke?
I get what I tell people all the time. I'm the 1 and Nick's the 0. We make a hell of a 10, though.
Yeah, that's what Nick says all the time too. He's the 1 and I'm the 0. Yeah, but no, I appreciate you saying those kind words. I mean, it's like I told you before. I mean, if I don't kill another cockroach, or it's been one heck of a ride, man. Like I said, so if all I do is fletch people's arrows and mow people's grass the rest of my life, I mean, it's been a great run. I swear it has. And I appreciate you saying that. But no, I mean, only thing I got in life is my reputation and personality and the way you treat people. And man, I can't stand for someone to be rude or no manners, or a guy takes the time to come up to me and tell me about his hunting story, or people people see you around in the public and you shaking people's hands and saying hey and talking with them. They say, man, don't that get old? And I said, no, I mean, you do get wore down sometimes. I said, it don't get old at all. I says, when people don't want to talk to you is when you got problems. So no, it's a blessing for us. So we're real appreciative of it. And thank you guys for saying those kind words.
Yes, sir.
One day, like you said, Nick, there won't be anybody left to tell those stories, and there won't be any time for people to come up to you. Like you said, Travis, it's going to come a time in one of these days where you'll be left with pictures and voice recordings and videos, and through your career, there's probably been more people than you can count on both hands and feet that are no longer here that you may have shared a camp with, that you've been able to, like we say, mount a memory with. A lot of people look at a deer head and they think, man, you got a beautiful deer head on the wall behind you there. But Nick killed that deer, and that deer head could be gone and he could still have that memory. And one day those people are going to be gone and they're going to have those memories to talk over. And that's the one thing that we've lost two people that we've had on this show in less than a year. And both of those gentlemen were wonderful folks. They were older. One was lost in a car accident and one was lost to COVID. And it's taken so much out of us. But like you said, it's given us so much more family time and more hope that we are going to be okay if we stick together. And it is okay to stay at home. It is all right to sit on the back porch and drink a cup of coffee and relish in those little things. Yeah,
well, that's a good way of putting it. I like the analogy of mountain of memory. I've never heard that before, but that really has resonated with me, guys. So I like that. Yeah,
that's mountain of memory. We always say, we said it at the very first episode. It was we always end every episode. I said it for years, and we always say, smile as you go and don't forget to mount the memories. And that's the one thing that we're going to continue to do with this thing. Yeah. But I'll tell you this, the biggest thing for me has been the approach that you guys get. Y'all do make a huge influence on folks.
Thank you. Yeah, y'all got a great podcast, so keep up the good work. Both of you guys do a fantastic job. I'm not just saying that, but y'all do a good job.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for flying that flag there behind you too.
Yes, sir.
Always. We'll always have us a flag up.
Tell old Pitts we said hello when you see him.
Old Pitts. Have y'all had him on?
Yeah, we did.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pitts, man, he's crazy. I told him y'all may be too young to remember that. Y'all know who Katharine Hepburn is?
I've heard the name, just my dad talking about it.
Yeah, you go back and look at the movie on Golden Pond, and Katharine Hepburn talks like this. So that's what we say Pitts is the redneck Katharine Hepburn.
Hey, how's Philip doing?
He's good. He's doing real good. Yeah.
Just kind of follow the story along on social media and stuff, and he kind of went through a tough time.
Yeah, that was, but he's doing real good, man. He's working real hard for their series they got there, that Hunt Club TV. There's nobody that hunts harder than Philip, especially for a turkey. And we call him, his nickname's Free Falling Philip, because he was filming Sam Clements. You ever hear this story? He was out in a cedar tree. They was in a cedar tree, and before he could get clipped in, he was filming Sam Clements out in Kansas, and they was in 20-25 foot up a cedar tree. And he fell out and he hit every limb on the way down. And thankfully it was a cedar tree, because it was like a 1 foot fall, but he did it 25 times. And he was going, and then Sam nicknamed him Free Falling Philip. But he didn't hurt anything. I mean, he was bruised up a little bit, but it could have been so much worse. But that Pitts is a mess, man. Pitts used to work with me for years.
He told us that.
Yeah, and man, me and him, I could tell you some stories about him. God, he is so funny. God, he's so funny.
I told him we told him on the podcast that he needs to come back out and start doing some of those funny skits and stuff. And
Yeah, that I think Realtree kind of produce all those things. So you know, with him being a fireman, I guess he's kind of at their mercy of whenever they want to do it. But yeah, they're funny.
Yeah,
They are funny. He's a mess, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you coming on. I know we kind of winding down here.
Yeah, and like Nick said, it's been an interesting journey to watch you as you go, Travis, and we can't wait to watch you as you continue along. And we want to get you back on again in the future. We'll have to hear about it, and we'll make sure to send you a message. You've been
just let me know. You got my number, you got my email. Just and stay in touch, and then you let me know. I'll be glad to come on. We as far as I know, we don't turn down any radio, any podcast or anything. We do them all. So usually do 2 or 3 a week every week.
Well, we sure appreciate you taking your time. Your time you're stretched, I know, thin in all the things that you do, and we sure appreciate you carving out a little time for us.
Look, is that another fat joke? Stretched thin?
I knew it was coming when I said it. I was like, here we go. He's fixing to give me again.
Good luck this season. Stay safe, man. All your travels.
Sounds good, man. Y'all guys have a good one too, and take care. Appreciate y'all having me on.
All right. Thank you very much, Travis.
Hey, man.
See y'all.
See ya.
See ya.